So good to have you join me once again. This is Rose on all sides. Today we're going to be looking at Nigeria's economic development, economic resources and human development. Um, I have with me the former commissioner for Edo State on wealth creation, cooperative, and employment. Thank you very much, sir, for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're looking into the area of reviving Nigeria's underdeveloped human and economic resources. For a lot of people, they believe that boosting the manufacturing industry can turn around the economy of any country. But sadly, in Nigeria, this is not the case. The manufacturing industry, in a way, is still in a comatose situation. Why are we not, focusing on this?
First, I'd like for us to appreciate the fact that our country is unique.
Okay.
And the human resources is huge. But for certain gaps in leadership, we couldn't just get it right. Our major emphasis as a country has been on a monolithic economic resource base. We've over-depended on our economic issues on oil and got distracted from that scenario immediately oil was discovered in 1959 up till 1977 when we had Festac 1977. Nigeria thought they were too rich as a country and as a people and decided not to focus on other issues. Permit me to give a trajectory of our economic base before 1959. Agricultural prowess showed that we were very resilient people, hardworking people who could generate revenue and export our products from Nigeria. Don't forget that we exported cocoa from the west, timber and oil from the south. Granite pyramids grew massively in Kano and the northern part of Nigeria. But all of a sudden in 1959, when we discovered oil, we left everything and we started importing everything and never cared about manufacturing, never cared about science and technology, never cared about innovation, and never linked our human resource innovation to the future. Those who came to us, Malaysia, for example,
yes,
they developed. China and India depended massively on Nigeria economy to survive. In fact, in the 70s and early 80s, the mathematics teachers were all from India. The medical personnel in our hospitals were from India. But all of a sudden, they drew their resource base and knew that it was possible and went all the way to their countries and developed their country. Look at our neighbor Ghana, who just all of a sudden, a few years back, when we sang the song, Ghana must go, they left, went inwards, looked inwards, developed their economy, and most of the manufacturing companies like Michelin left Nigeria and went to Ghana. I think it was all about leadership issue and the vacuum that leadership resource created.
You've mentioned that we left everything and started exporting. Why do we think that exporting is meant to solve our issues? Because we know that we have the granite pyramids in the north, we have the cocoa in the west, and of course the coal in the east. So why would we abandon agriculture and think importing? After exporting oil, importing other things is what we actually need in Nigeria.
Two things account for it. Self-discipline.
Yes.
And satisfying our ego.
Okay.
We thought we were rich, like I said earlier. So we needed to import everything from the Western world,
Yeah.
nobody wanted to eat the local rice that we ate before. Nobody wanted to depend on granules, wanted to import peanuts. Nobody wanted to take our palm oil that was rich.
Yes.
We wanted to import some issues that would damage our cholesterol.
Yeah.
And then we started bringing everything from everywhere and left our borders open for everyone to bring everything. And that damaged the economy because we exported jobs from our country
Yes.
to other countries who produce the final products and brought them for us. Even our oil. We never cared about maintaining our refineries or building larger refineries to create jobs locally. We exported the crude and imported fuel and diesel to sustain our economy.
Okay, you said that Nigeria, it's a good country, prosperous, hardworking people, but sadly the economy is in a sorry state. Who is to blame for this?
Like I said, you have to look at the trajectory of our historical perspective as a nation. We, as a people,
Yes.
were immersed in political issues for a long while. If you break the history of our country from independence till date, you will see that military coup accounts for more than 70% of the leadership structure of our nation. And that in itself didn't create a better leadership program for a nation like Nigeria. We're not democratically oriented to create opportunities and privileges for people to do the things the way they wanted to do it. The military, with their issues, created the setback for us to have had long routes in coups, from one transition of a coup to another, starting with the
But
1966
should that stop the growth of any country? Shouldn't, after one leader leaves, comes in, then the next one comes, shouldn't there be a structure that cannot be that they cannot deviate from?
Okay, this is the first time that we've had a transition for a long period of 20 years in the democratic experiment of Nigeria. Others, the incursion at every given time truncated every program that we had. If you recall, we've had developmental plans as a nation, but each of those developmental plans are always truncated by a military coup. And once the military incursion occurs, every program of the predecessor of that military regime is not continued. And once it's not continued, you don't link that trajectory to a successful program. And then it creates a whole lot of distortion in the system.
Okay, I'll give you an example. In 1994, Rwanda had a very terrible situation whereby they lost almost 1 million people. But today, and in the last 10 years, their economy has been growing, and they've become a reference point, a force to be reckoned with on the African continent. How did they manage to do that? When Nigeria had a civil war in the late 60s and the early 70s, but we are still trying to put ourselves together as it stands today. So how come they are able to do it? And the president has just got an overwhelming support to vie for a third term.
Okay.
So
I like for us to compare likes with likes.
Okay.
Apples with apples, not apples with grapes. Nigeria, as of today, August 14th, by the UN report, has a population of 201 million estimated people.
Yeah.
Accounts for the 7th most populous nation in the world. Has a land mass of a geographical location of divided by 10 of the landmass of the United States of America. That is a huge and sizable number of persons living in a geographical location in a developing world. That nation cannot be compared to Rwanda in terms of population and size. I agree with you that the milestones of the Rwanda people and government has gone way beyond the expectation of many other countries. But I like for us to compare likes with likes.
So if you say Nigeria's population, India, China has the largest, America has a huge population, but they are working with multicultural society.
I still want to emphasize that you can't compare those countries because they are not similar in terms.
Of
China with its huge population has its own domestic challenges, economically and otherwise. India, I've been to India. India still has its own poverty issues around most of the rural communities.
No, they still do, but today we
agree.
have the largest number of people living under the poverty stats.
I agree. Now let's come to why are we not getting it? Because I don't like comparison. That's why I drew those issues. Why are we not getting it? And what should we do to get it? Why are we not really getting it? My first take has been that our issue democratically vis-a-vis military incursion and dispensation has created a lot of setback for us. But like a wise man said, a setback usually should be a step back for you to have a rethink of what to do. What should we be doing at this moment? We should take our demography as an opportunity to launch to the developed society.
Okay.
Our demography is very good for us. It's one of the biggest markets in the world.
Yeah.
The 7th largest population in the world. And in Africa, it accounts for the largest market. Now, what should we do right? We still have leadership vacuum. Our current leaders, most of them, I don't want to say all of them, still find it very difficult to connect with the current global trend of issues. The youthful population, which accounts for over 30% of the population of Nigeria, very mobile, very active, very innovative, very creative. We should have a sync with the government and ask what can we be doing to create an economic base that will launch Nigeria into a developed world.
Yeah. So because that's going to be one of my several questions. Like, what will it take, for Nigeria to make Africa's manufacturing up, or in terms of technology, yes, of course, technology, information technology, and the likes.
Two things. Number one, I think we should have a twerk in our curriculum.
What do you call a twerk?
A shift of the current curriculum that we teach in our schools. An educational system that teaches you to get a certificate is not a good one. An educational curriculum that gives you a document and after which you are a job seeker is not a good one.
I guess this is what we concentrated on for a very long time, the white collar job after you get your
certificate, whatever certificate you get. Is an educational system that should create innovation and technical knowledge, skill, and train manpower to fit in global trend of issues should be what we should be thinking about. Once we think about that and we think out of the box for the younger generation, they are up and doing and mobile to do anything that will create opportunities for us as a nation.
Okay.
Two, we should invest greatly in the small, medium enterprises because it accounts for over 40% of the economic growth of any nation.
Yes.
When small businesses have small opportunities, they become big businesses. After all, the likes of Apple, Microsoft, Google, and the rest, they all started very small and now they are global businesses.
True.
Facebook is not a global business. I'm sure it started from the history that we are told. It started from a small garage thereabout. So if we invest in these small businesses, then we are good to go. How do we need to invest in them?
You really don't think that going back to agriculture is the way out?
No, don't misunderstand my issues. Agriculture has its own large value chains.
Yes.
But without these small businesses contributed to the large value chain of agriculture, we will still remain where we are. After all, if we still farm the old way our parents were farming,
yes,
we are still going to remain that way. What will create the value chain of agriculture to be massive is the small businesses producing and helping to break down the one big business of agriculture into its various value chains. Rather than export cocoa to the Western world and bring them back as chocolate, why not produce cocoa in the farm and small businesses dissect the other value issues that are related with cocoa and then sell around the West African sub-region and even Nigeria as a large market itself. Rather than bringing, okay, I'm traveling back to Nigeria. A lot of people are calling, please, when you're coming, bring chocolate. How about when we produce that chocolate in Nigeria and you have access to it, and in terms we export it to West African sub-region of the continent, you see that will be a huge market. So we have to invest in small businesses who will break down the value chain of big businesses and then create massive employment in the system.
I was in Ghana a few years ago, and actually it's like over 10 years ago when I was in Ghana. They were producing their own chocolates. So what is so difficult in Nigeria producing chocolates?
Takes me back to the issue I just raised. Value chain of small businesses. Invest in these small businesses. We still have difficulty with funding of small businesses.
Why is it difficult? We have one of the biggest banks in the world. You put on CNN today and you will see the number of adverts that our banks are putting out there for investors to come in.
Monetary policy of the central bank is still very huge, where you have interest rates for businesses up to over 20%, 2 digits, 20%, 26%, 2 digits. The world is clamoring for a single digit or even a zero interest rate for businesses to survive. I have ideas. I have the capacity, that is the knowledge to do a business. What is left for me is funding. And if I don't get funding, that business and that vision will soon die. And if it dies, I'm not going to add value to the system. So why not review your monetary policy? Give interest rate, and that's quite impressed with what this government has started doing, especially with agriculture, innovation, and the entertainment industry.
I think with the concentration on agriculture,
but we still need to
commend it.
Break them down, increase the value of what they are doing, so that more people can get into the net and create more opportunities and value in our society.
Okay, this abused my mind a bit because you mentioned that today United Nations have said that the population of Nigeria is 201 million people. That is huge. We're the largest on the African continent. But the thing is, with our population alone, does that make us a force to be reckoned with on the continent economically?
Yes. I'll tell you why. That is the biggest market in Africa. That is why you see other countries in Europe, America, and in Asia, even the Middle East, trying to get into Nigeria because you produce for 200 million people, you are goddamn rich. Produce for 200 million people food, just food alone.
But do those 200 million people, in terms of communication, yes, we have to communicate. Transportation, roads, infrastructure, there is money in all of those. What else can you come to produce? Because now I'm thinking about the likes of MTN, Vodafone, and those who came into Nigeria. The population is there to consume such products. What else? Food. Are we going to keep importing? Because recent events, the president said, as given a directive to the central bank not to give out forex for importing of food.
It didn't say you shouldn't import food, but once you are going to import, you are what it's trying to do is to create a choice for Nigerians to say, government will not, through the central bank, support importation of food.
That but can just be that can be done in some other ways instead of giving such directive. Anyway, you've seen the other school of thought who came up and say they do not. It is not within the jurisdiction of the president to give such directive.
I think that is a challenge we have as a people.
Okay.
First, is the message good?
I think
the method or whether there's capacity to do. I'm coming. We've always remained like this. We import toothpick. We import rice.
It's outrageous.
We import everything. Now, we are seeing a government that says, let's grow our local food. Let's encourage the oil palm production and rice production and maize production locally. If you want to import, we won't subscribe to giving you forex to import.
Okay.
But locally produced, we encourage people to go and buy from that because we have the market.
If he says that, have we as a people achieved food security?
That is another aspect we should be talking about. Now that he has said so, should we emphasize the need for every one of us to go back to the farm?
What is foods to Mr. President is not foods to the person, someone living maybe in Abuja or someone living in the West or in the South. Generally, it is a very good advice, We cannot shut down the borders at this point. And
let me give you an
like
example.
I mentioned to you before, I think Nigeria should have been able to get to that level of feeding ourselves before we could reach such decision.
Let me ask you a question. Maybe it will be rhetorical. Are we feeding ourselves? And why are we not? Do we have... I started by telling us the land size of our nation.
Yes.
And the population of our people. Do we have the capacity? And I also told you the trajectory of our nation, Nigeria, where we started from agriculturally. Do we have the capacity to feed ourselves? The answer is yes. Should we be feeding ourselves? The answer is yes. Are we feeding ourselves right now? The answer is no. Why are we not feeding ourselves? Why are we importing? Now the solution is coming. Rather than import, why can't we feed ourselves? Are there programs already earmarked and outlined to create the opportunity to feed ourselves? Yes. If the programs are there, why are we not taking advantage of it to feed ourselves so that we grow the local economy? And when we are self-sufficient in creating the local economy to be so robust, we export and bring more forests into our country and be self-sustainable in agricultural issues. That will also create the value chain for manufacturing. Because once you are producing local food, it means that people will be looking inwards how to create machines, rice milling machine, cassava milling machine, and all of that. Yes. Manufacturing will also begin to take place. And then we'll also now be calling on government to increase the infrastructure, build the infrastructure programs, bridge the gap of the deficit of infrastructure, road, for transportation, linking up rural communities to bring the agricultural waste to where they can sell, help the market build itself, build the value that people can create for themselves. Yeah. Then also ask the banks monetary policy to be reviewed so that more people can have access to funding their businesses and building the economy. We have the opportunity. This, I think, is the right time to do that. For me, I'm not just a lawyer, I'm also a farmer.
I know, it's good. And then I have to quickly mention this to my viewers that if you're just joining me, I am speaking to Honorable Emmanuel Usoh. He is a legal practitioner with a PhD in view. He's the former acting chairperson of the Edo State Revenue Service and is also the former commissioner for wealth creation, cooperative, and employment in Edo State. So I guess we really do have the right person to deal with this discussion. And the really beautiful thing about this is that this is an ongoing thing. Yes. That we have, because talking about the economy is huge. Macro, micro, which aspect of it are we going to be looking at or talking about exactly? Agriculture, manufacturing, the stock exchange, the banking sector, every other aspect of it, infrastructure, they are all intertwined or interwoven. I remember my economic sister usually, my economic teacher used to say that intertwined, interwoven, and we're wondering what he's saying. But the fact is this: manufacturing industry would really help develop any nation. But then, during my research, I stumbled on a piece with the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, MAN, falling back on the issue of power generating in the country, which is quite poor.
Now, there are two things tied to manufacturing. You must have the skilled manpower for manufacturing, because even if a manufacturing company is to commence operations in Nigeria today, if you don't have the skilled manpower to do it, you have challenges. Then the second aspect that you have raised is power generation, electricity. Yes. Now, what should we be doing with electricity or power generation? I think our over-dependence on the former status quo of generating power has created a lot of problems for us. Nigeria, with its massive population, should not be depending now
yes.
on just mega generation of electricity by a transmission company. We should open the space. The laws should be broken down to allow private initiatives to create power and sell at competitive, regulated price. Competitive, but regulated by government, so that we can have power generated across the length and breadth of Nigeria for small businesses and manufacturers to thrive. If we fail to do that, there will be creating problems. Don't forget that aspect or sector of economy has been bedeviled with a lot of corruption. The ongoing probe is particular cases, scenario where 16 billion was alleged to have been expended within the period for power generation.
During the Obasanjo's administration?
We've not seen anything to show for it. But I'm sure that what is currently ongoing, like the case study of Edo, where the government has signed with CMS and other private initiatives to generate electricity. We sit on gas. Edo State, in this location, sits on gas. And so we are asking the private sector to generate power. In few months' time, I'm sure that we'll be generating massive electricity in Edo State to help small businesses to grow and change the local economy and the narratives of the economy.
I have heard the governor of Edo State speak, His Excellency Godwin Obaseki, and the focus he talked about in terms of developing the state. If you see the way or check the way other countries work, if you see that it is working for South Africa, why don't I just go to South Africa and try to employ the same model they used? Or maybe, like I heard when Japan closed their doors for 15 years after the Hiroshima and Nagasaki events, the sad events, they went to America and they picked up maybe a VCR or some machine and dismounted it, then how to put it back. And today they are one of, the biggest in terms of technology equipment. So what is difficult for us to do? Because in no time we're talking about how big we are, what the population is like. Nigerians are traveling everywhere across the world, and they're doing very well in all these countries. So what is so difficult in putting it together? And particularly, I'm enjoying this because you're part of a government,
Yeah,
the
okay.
Edo State government.
Yes.
So what is the problem within the government? Because sadly, in Nigeria, everything is centered on the government. So
Okay,
why can't we put this together?
I'll give an example. I think our infrastructure base has been grossly inadequate for us to sustain what we intend to do as a people. That's why I spoke about the first issue of having to change the narratives of our curriculum. The technical college in
Yes.
Benin City was built by the Canadian government more than, say, close to 50 years ago. That school was completely abandoned until recently, when this government took the initiative to create the opportunity for us to have technical education. I had the privilege of traveling to Minnesota in the United States of America.
Yes.
Within a small location, they had 4 technical education, less than the size and population of Benin City. 4 huge technical colleges, and for us, the emphasis as a people has been certificate in the university. I don't think that's what we need now. What we need is to generate the needed manpower and skill to be able to turn the value chain of our economy in the small sector of businesses. Once we develop that and then create the infrastructure in power, Nigerians are resilient and hardworking people. They will go all out to do what will generate money and resources for themselves and the nation. So I think what is making us to get it right initially, we say we blame game on the military and the democratic space that we never had. But within these 20 years, I think the experiment should no longer be called an experiment. We should get focused as a people, do the needed issues, and get on with what we should be doing. First, like I said, we have need to tweak our curriculum, and 2, we need to build.
When you use the word twerk, he's bringing other ideas.
Well, for me, the word twerk connotes the fact that you have to change or shift a little, not just the other ideas that may be going on in the mind of the people.
Okay. That's right. That's right. But I would want to know, what should our focus be on in terms of our economy, since we've realized that we should move away from crude oil. There's a piece I read today about some Nigerian student that went to a school, I don't know, in America, and they said that the world, I don't know what's going to be happening in the oil and gas industry, but in the next 40 to, in 2040, between 2040 and 2050, there's going to be a ban on crude oil. So they are innovating, creating ways whereby they can all adapt or diversify, and then we really are not aware of this in Nigeria. Our focus is still mainly on crude oil.
No, I think this current administration is diversifying the economy to an extent, but they need to step up the game.
That's what the write-up said.
Yes.
But I know, I mean, of course, we've heard what the government keeps saying about focusing on agriculture, but we keep hearing agriculture.
No, I need to break it down because I am privileged to know part of the issues. It's not just speaking about agriculture. In the time past, we gave lip service to issues of agriculture, but I think the game is coming up massively this time. There's refocus on cassava.
Yes.
There's focus on maize, and there's focus on oil palm, and there's focus on so many other aspects of agriculture. My take is that it is not sufficient for you to put the money in the major issue of agriculture, planting, harvesting, and all that. It doesn't end with that. The value chain, we must create the enabling environment for the value chain of those small businesses, which accounts for over 40% to run. If we set up those small businesses that can in turn feed on the huge issue of agriculture, we are good to go. Then our second focus should be on mining. We have a lot of other mineral resources not associated with petroleum and all of that. There's practically no geopolitical space or geographical location in Nigeria without mining activities not taking place. Recently, we heard in Zamfara that people were mining gold, which means that Nigeria has so much quantity of gold.
But this only just came to the fore. We didn't really know about this initially.
That's the issue that I'm talking about. When you leave the rural settings to gravitate to poverty, they find opportunities in their local environment, and they think that they are government of themselves, by themselves, for themselves. So now that we discover that there is gold and opportunities lie under the ground for so many other minerals across Nigeria, it will not give the opportunity for mining activities to take place, and then also break the value chain of the mining activities to take place in all of these locations. I bet you, once we sit down and get focused on all of this issue and generate the needed infrastructure to diversify from oil, we will not be talking about oil. Oil will just be a reserve for us to make additional funds. Agriculture and mining and the value chain of small businesses is the way to go.
Okay, so what's your take on borrowing to service the budget? Because I'll just say this just a little bit, because we've come to know that President Muhammadu Buhari's budget has been the largest ever since we came into a democracy, over 8.5 trillion naira. And then we have to borrow within and outside the country to service the budget. How does this work?
Okay. I'm not an economist, but my experience in life and in government tells me that there's nothing wrong in borrowing. But you must not borrow to eat. If you borrow to build infrastructure, then you are borrowing to build the economy. Our budget cycle and our budget estimates and size over the time, both from at the 3 tiers of government, the local, the state, and the federal, has revolved around issues of capital and recurrent, where we give 30% or less in most instances to capital projects, that is for infrastructure, and give 70% to recurrent expenditure, that's travelings, accommodations, running government, and all of that, salaries, personnel costs. That has created the imbalance in where we are not growing. Where we decide as a people to sit tight and not create opportunity for corruption and not tempting people and balance the budget, perhaps giving the reverse side of what we used to do, because they say it's only a madman that will continue to do the things the way he's been doing it and expect a different result. Why not a swap? Give 70% to capital expenditure and give 30% to recurrent, and tighten our budgets and tighten our stomach and sew our clothes, not according to our size, but according to our cloth. That will create opportunity for us. Then there must be room for accountability. You give roads and contracts for people to build.
My history is a bit hazy in terms of the budget or in terms of Nigeria borrowing. I know there was a time we were owing so much, and then part of it has to be written off, and debt servicing, we're paying a whole lot. And then we heard about the Minister for Finance saying that to service the budget, we're going to borrow within and outside Nigeria. And then if you put up a really huge budget, we don't want to talk about the civil service that is over bloated, or maybe the politicians in the National Assembly who are taking a huge part of our budget. Oh, this is one issue I really don't want to touch. But the fact is this: why do we have to be borrowing so much?
Okay, that takes me back to the earlier issue we discussed when the president said we don't have forex to fund importation of food. However, you want to import food, CBN will not be part of that program.
Yes.
Now, if you recall, under the Obasanjo administration, we had practically cleared our debts.
Yes.
And then we had this forgiveness of debt that started prior before Obasanjo and took place during his administration. But immediately the subsequent administration came in, and up to 2015,
yes,
our foreign reserve was depleted.
Okay.
And we had huge challenges. And immediately after that, we went into a recession. We immediately went into a recession. The country that was borrowing to pay salaries is expected to go into a recession. A country that was importing toothpick and everything and exporting jobs is expected to remain in recession. A country that practically depends on Western world for aids and support
yes,
will definitely have poverty knocking at the door. That is what we have done over time. Now, what should we do right? We should emulate other nations who went inward. In Asia, Indonesia, Malaysia, and all the likes. You talked about Japan. They went indoors and they shut their country against external issues. And they decided this is the way to go. I think it's time for us to tell ourselves we should no longer pay lip service to the advertisement we make on wanting to make our nation great. We should tell ourselves it is time for us to look inwards, buy made in Nigerian goods, help Nigeria to grow, patronize Nigeria issues, deal with the local issues and the local circumstances that we have
yes,
to be able to improve on the lot of our people. We can't take out leadership. Leadership is key. Once we get the right leaders and we begin to think patriotically as Nigerians, I think we will be on the top of our issues. Don't forget, corruption is the bane of our people. And until we deal with it radically and agree as a people that what affects corruption affects the social fabric of our nation, our people generally will not be on the right trajectory to grow.
What's your take on the Ruga Plantation in every state of Nigeria?
It's the most controversial issue now, I must say. And people have failed to appreciate what the issues are.
Yes.
And when you speak on the issue, you are on either of the divides because it affects the political issue and a lot of people are not willing to speak about it politically. Yes. But if you ask me, it boils down to my initial take on the value chain of agriculture. Should we be taking beef or cows from the north to the south at this time? Should we not have an opportunity where we can domestically create a market in all of the nation, all of the places in the nation, or even export raw meat from the north to the south? Beef is produced in Ireland and is sold in England. Tomato is produced in one part of America and is sold. How do they do it? Have we experimented on all of this issue? We should ask questions and know. It's not a topic we should just be fighting about. Yeah. And once it comes up politically, there's a divide, north, south, Muslim, Christians. I don't think that is the way to go. The way to go is to really ask the question and have a stakeholders opportunity for us to dissect what the issues are and come out with plausible solutions to our problems. For me, Ruga is an ongoing project that should have further conversation.
But it's been suspended.
I say should have a further conversation on
Mm-hmm.
solutions to it, whether Ruga should be or how the value chain of this agricultural produce should be
be
spread
transported
across
of
the
course.
nation.
Do you consider the air transport into taking this product across the country?
Not just air transport, even
The rail?
you can do rail.
Yes.
And I'm quite impressed with what is happening about rail transportation. I happen to have traveled to Kaduna by rail.
Yes.
And immediately after my house in the village is a rail line that takes passengers all the way to the south.
Well, that's good.
We should encourage that, improve on it, and get the opportunity to service our people through that means of transportation.
Okay, then, what should focus be? Some say our focus should be on the citizens, into enlightening them, educating, like you said, technical schools and the likes, or maybe focus on private investors.
Who are the private investors? You and I are the private investors.
Okay.
This you are doing here, this television house is an investment. Who should we be waiting for? When we say private investment or investors, it's as if we are waiting for some form of spirits to come and do. In fact, let me be honest with you. No foreign investment will participate in an economy where the local investment is not doing well. So the first take should be to encourage local investment. Central Bank of Nigeria should come with monetary policies to invest and create incentives for the local investments. Once you do that and you create the infrastructure, when foreign investments are coming, they tell themselves they are going to bring huge capital in addition to what is on ground to be able to build investment. And when you do all of this, you have succeeded in curing a lot of issues. Number one, you've cured security challenges because when there's so much employment, people are busy in the day, they will not have the opportunity to be busy in the night.
Yes.
You created the employment with one single transaction. Budgetary allocation for other issues would have been taken care of because rather than invest so much in security challenges now, you'll be investing in capacity building and health of your people.
Okay, that's good. I must say it's been good having you on the program, Honorable Emmanuel Usoh. Is that name from Edo State?
It's from Edo State. In fact, the Edos, the Benis bear Usoh, the Ishans bear Usoh, and fortunate enough, from both, I'm half caste.
You're half caste within the state.
I'm half caste within the state.
Okay, that's good. Thank you very much for joining me on the show. Okay, viewers,
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you
And
very much.
I'm really hoping, if you'll be spending more time in the UK as you'll be going back to Nigeria, and as time goes on, we could be having you as a resource person back here, when we then want to touch on issues related to Nigeria on roles on all sides. So thank you very much for joining me, Honorable Emmanuel Usoh. Okay, and viewers, I must say a big thank you to my guest who's done justice to this issue on the Nigerian economy. Of course, you know what our topic was. It was up there. It's reviving Nigeria's underdeveloped human and economic resources. So, Mr. Emmanuel Usoh is a legal practitioner with a PhD in view and the former acting chairperson of the Edo State Revenue Service and also a former Honorable Commissioner for Wealth Creation, Cooperatives, and Employment in Edo State. Thank you very much for watching. My name remains Rose Peter Graham, and stay tuned with me tomorrow at 2 p.m. where we'll be speaking with Nollywood actor Frederick Leonard at 2 p.m. Thank you very much for joining me, and this has been on the program. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.